Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Do we need Jenna here? I don't know. I've done that Jenna thing like 3, 4, 5 times, but I still always get it wrong. Yeah? So we'll know whether we need that kind of energy. So my assignment this afternoon is to talk about you or me as a resource. Yeah? The first investment ever. You know, when people say, like, what do we do when I still haven't gotten a job? I'm in first year. I've just finished Form 4 or high school, whichever system you're doing. I want to get started on this journey, and I don't know how to do it, or I don't even have money. The reality is, and we had it from Pius's discussion in the morning, and I think a little of what Paul Kasimus talked about as well. The first you can invest, even as a 12-year-old, as a 13-year-old, because the investment starts with you as a resource. So the conversation we're going to have here this afternoon is me as a resource, right? I'm a resource. That money that we earn, the money we are seeking, the job we are seeking to get, we are looking for, or to move from one job to another, that whole movement, yeah, is dependent on what you have done with yourself as a resource. And that is something that most people maybe don't appreciate or are not deliberate about, or it doesn't hit you. I'll tell you, over, I think, 10 to 15 years after I had finished university, even not 15 years, let's say 7 years. 7 years after I had finished university, and that would be 30, 31, 32, I would be in this room, right? There were clear differences between those who I graduated with. And it had nothing to do with the opportunities in the market only. Yeah, there was a contribution from that. But it also had to do with how each individual, after graduation day, had prepared themselves for the life that was going to follow from university. So there are those ones who hang on to, and one of the speakers talked about this in the morning, hang on to, I graduated with this degree. I did a double degree in. I went to main campus, University of Nairobi or something, and I did this thing. And therefore, you kind of talk like there's a sense of it will come. Even if it hasn't come today, an entitlement, it will come anyway. Then there are those ones who finished the university, went in, maybe got a job in my time. Now I'm talking about my season. Got a job, realized that if I continue doing this for another 2 years, I'll get stuck. So they looked around where they were working and figured out, how do I move from this job to do that job? How do I move from that job to do the next job? And they started moving. That is those ones managed themselves as a resource. For you to start saving, you must first learn how to earn. You have to earn. And from your earn, you earn from what you're learning, how you're growing, what you're deliberate about, and whether you really do have a plan. So the question is, and this is a hard answer, do you really have a plan? Do you have a plan to move from where you are today? This is April 27th, 2024. How will April 28th, is next year, last Saturday, April 28th? Can someone check the calendar? Last Saturday of next year, if we are to meet here again at that time, if that is 28th, I think, 26th maybe, 26th, if you are to have grown in a year, what does that growth look like, or what should you be doing? So what I want to take you through are 9 steps of what I have taught young people over the last, I think, 20, 22 years on growth and mastering growth. Because growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will get better. Yeah? Growth, the only guarantee that your tomorrow is going to get better is that you actually are deliberate about growth. So let's go through those. I have 28 minutes. So in case I move a bit fast, please don't mind. So the first thing is to understand where you are now. You can't talk about growth without understanding where you are now. So you raise your awareness and understand where it is you are now. All right? How do you do that? The first thing is to be intentional. You understand that I need to know that I need to grow. And I need to be intentional about the growth. So that intention has to start. So you're here just by coming here today and spending all this time. We're running, I think, 1.5 hours late in the program, but you're here. You've already demonstrated being intentional about growing and learning. So the first thing is, for you to grow, you have to be intentional about that growth. The second thing, you have to be aware of where you are. You have to be aware of what you do not want. You have to be aware of where you want to go. And maybe that awareness of where you want to go might not be as clear as the awareness of where you are now. But you have to be aware of where you are now. You know the way you say, I have been looking for a job. I've really looked for this job. It's not coming through. There are people who come to me and tell me, I finished university 2-3 years ago, and I'm waiting to get a job. So what I respond to them is, waiting is not a strategy. Yeah? You have to be aware that I am not employed, or my business is not doing well, and then you figure out, how do I change this? That awareness has to come to a level where you want to make a difference. So that's the second step. So the first step is to be intentional. The second step is to be aware. But for you to be aware, you must know yourself so that you grow yourself. You cannot desire something that is extremely out of what you can do. And then, work like you're trotting through it and trying to figure out why is it not working. Understand really what it is you can do and then move forward. And I'll make it very simple. And my times were different. I went to university. I was a very good math student in high school. Math came to me very naturally. So I went to university. The first university I went to was Kenyatta University. I was called to do double maths and chem. And then I thought that math was the one that I left at school. I went there, and I was hit with real character development all round. That math was not the one I left at school. It was different. And at that point, I started reaching an awareness that this thing is not going to work for me. It was a difficult conversation to have at home because I needed now to move from a public university, which was cheaper, to a private university, which needed more money. Yeah? But then I raised my awareness at that time and realized that if I'm to go home and convince my mom and my dad that I need to move from Kenyatta University, because it was so rigid. I don't know about today when you're called for a course, whether you can change it. I think you can before you start attending, right? That time it was not like you either take it or leave it. So I was on the leave it part. So I had to look for a job. And I worked that job just to get to see how much more than what they said they had could we add for me to move to USIU and do a business degree. That awareness is the one I'm talking about. You have to be aware of who you are, what you can do and what you cannot do, so that you don't waste time. And whose time are you wasting? Yourself, your own time, right? Be very clear. What you can do, you can do. What you cannot do, you cannot do. The market is full of opportunities. Yeah? Plug in to where it is that you have your strengths. That's the second one. So you start with intentionality, then you move to awareness. The third one is you want to look at yourself as that person 3 years later or 5 years later. So if I say, I want to start, let's talk about this Prosper Path. I sat with Kendi on a very casual living room conversation and said, we need to bring this thing to Kenyans. Yeah, how will it look like? After 2, 3, maybe 30, 40 minutes, or maybe 2, 3 hours, I can't remember, we could see this thing here today. What started like a conversation, a very simple conversation of how do we teach people about money? We moved further out, and we could see a conference where people would come and learn from others. What am I saying? For you to grow yourself and invest in yourself as a resource, you need to see the end, what that end looks like. And then you work backwards. Literally visualize it. Yeah? In fact, it was so spooky because we sat down and as she was talking about what she could see, I also was talking about what we could see. We could see many people seated and lectures like this happening or master classes like this happening. When you are maybe just finished university or you are a high school leaver, you've just finished your exams and you're trying to figure out, maybe the high school one, because I work with those young people, it's sometimes not very, very clear going forward, much more as it is for university leavers. I would encourage you to see what it is you want to be at the age of 25. Yeah? So let's assume you're here and you're under the age of 25. What I would encourage you to do is to go. I have an activity here, so I'll just verbalize it and hope that you can go and do it. If you're below 25, do it for 25. If you're below 30, do it for 30. If you're below 35, do it for 35. The thing is, do it for 5 years from today. When you wake up in the morning, 5 years from today, ask yourself, where is that house? Where is that bed? The bed you're getting up from, where is it? Where is the house? Who is in the house with you? All right? What time did you get up? Where are you getting up to go to? Are you working from home? Or are you going to stay home because you don't have anything to do? Or are you actually getting up, showering, dressing up, and then moving out to go to a destination where you'll be working? And then how are you moving? Are you moving in a car? Is it your car? What make of the car is it? Which city are you living in? Whose car is that? What brand of the car is it? And when you get there and you're seated and saying, this is where I always wanted to be at 25. This is where I always wanted to be at 30 or at 35. And if you're almost 35 here or 35 thereabout, at 40. When you sit there and say, this is it, what is that? Who's seated behind you, beside you? What I'm trying to say is you have to almost feel that thing. Because if you feel it, you will now start knowing how to seek it. You will go to places or talk to people differently. Yeah? And you will desire it differently. So the third one that I'm talking about, the third point that I'm trying to stress on is understand what that destination is. And live in the destination. Put yourself literally inside that destination. That place where you want to be at. And even define the people you want around you. If you're 20 and you're looking at it for 25, do you have a girlfriend? What kind of girlfriend is that? Do you have a boyfriend? What kind of boyfriend is that? In fact, now that I've talked about that, can I maybe ask, have you heard what the biggest career decision you'll make is now that we're under 35? What's your biggest career decision? Anyone know? The lady in white? The biggest career decision you will make is the person you choose to marry. Did you know that? Yeah? Because if after all this you have had today, you get a coach, you go through growth, you continue growing and moving yourself from one level to another, you decide to hook up with somebody who has not seen it, is also not moving, there's going to be an issue. It has been proven. So when you're thinking about your age at 25 or 35 or 40, are you alone? Who is next to you? How do they show up? Maybe even where did you meet this person? Or how are you praying for that person to be the way they want, the way you would like them to be? Right? So those are 3. So we start with being intentional. Then you go into be aware of where you are right now. Oh, I lost it. Then you move into, I had written it, so I'll just... Then you move into how does it look at the very end? Okay? Then we get to the second set of 3. The second set of 3 is, I want you to be curious enough. Be curious enough to figure out how to get there. And that means that try what needs to be done. You will read that if I want to be living in London at the age of 30, or if I want to have a business that has a regular income of 20 to 30,000 shillings per month in the next 2 years, be curious enough to know, to learn from the other people who have businesses that are regularly getting them 20, 30,000 shillings a month. Go to them and ask them, what do you do? How do you do it? When did you do it? Who did you do it with? Are there times you don't do it? Go find it. Be curious enough so that you can have like almost a book where you're writing your notes and saying, I discovered this. They told me this. They sent me there. I did this, because I watched it on YouTube or something like that. Increase your curiosity. The next one is get someone who has done it and do it as they are. This is modeling. I want you to model. Think about modeling. Who has done it? Figure out who has done it, and then do it with them. Now, it's different. What I talked about, the law of the mirror. There are laws. I'll come through what they are. The mirror is what we call the law of the mirror is to look at where you want to be and see yourself there. But the modeling is where you see that person is already there and I want to be like that person. Is it coming out clearly? Do you see it? So if I want to speak like the way Obama does, I have to see Obama. That's how he speaks. That's the guy I want to speak. I want to speak like that guy, right? So I figure out how he got there. I'm curious enough, how did this guy get there? How did he get there? So I go read his story. I listen to 10 or 20 of his speeches. I understand when he takes a pause, when he starts talking, when he stops talking, or how he engages the crowd. Yeah? And then I say, that's the person I want to model. All right? So for this fifth, I think, the fifth step is get the person to model and then do your research on that person and be curious enough to model what they have done and then do it as well. All right? Now, no matter what we say, no matter what we have written, if we do not have the discipline, this is the next one. If you don't have the discipline and the consistency to keep doing it every day, we're going to fail. Yeah? One of the challenges I keep telling people that I have is being consistent with my walking or my running. I've not gotten to running yet, but my walking every day. Yeah? So that is a prayer item for me. So please pray for me. Yeah? Now, I see the people who have modeled this. I see how they look, and I desire that. I got curious to know how they got there, and I knew that they had a plan, they had a working plan, they had an accountability team, and all that stuff. But the reason why I haven't gotten there, and this is me being vulnerable, is I lack consistency in that aspect. Now, is there something that you have been wanting to do? You see the person, you're ready to model the person, you even feel how it is to be in that stage. But consistency has been a challenge. Is there anyone who has a consistency challenge? Oh, it's not just me. I think we all need to pray for each other, right? In different things. There are some things that I really love with my whole heart. I'm consistent. Every single day I do them. Like I read every day. Yeah? I read to expand my knowledge every single day. But this working one, yeah, it's still on that prayer item list. So consistency, no matter what it is you desire, or no matter what it is you have written down today, from morning till now, just figure out this whole way of how do you stay consistent and have that discipline to do it. Yeah? I did try with my walking. And where it worked for me, when it worked for me, I got myself into an accountability group. And we had to keep posting every day. You know, with those trackers you have on your phone or the watch, we had to keep posting every day before 10 p.m. Yeah? That got me consistent for, I think, 50 continuous days. So you clap for me. 3 days was a challenge, but 50 days continuously. I actually submitted. Then I got very busy at work. I missed the 51st day, 52nd, 53rd, and after that it was just downhill. So I need to start again. Yeah? But I'll tell you what happened in those 50 days. A cousin of mine actually came and told me, Dolly, you look different. Your energy level is different. Your face and your skin is glowing different. And you're walking with, like energy. So there is the results from being curious enough, being consistent, and actually doing it. The result is there and it will be seen, but you have to just keep at it, right? Now, the last two that I want to talk about before we move to questions are the two that I actually spend most time in. And I'll just read them out as they are described by the author of the two of them. The first one is, the first of the last two, is the law of environment. So just write it that way so that you can go online and look for it. The law of environment. We're talking about you as a resource and growing yourself as a resource. Now, these laws are John Maxwell laws. The law of environment says, where you hang out, who is the environment you've been in, who you have hung out with, who you are hanging out with, the books you're reading, and now to add, the content you're consuming, the places you go, the events you attend. Some of them I'm adding. The events you attend. That becomes your environment. You understand? So it is who you are with, what you're watching, what you're reading, what you're consuming online, where you're going, and the events you attend. That becomes your environment. So if we go back to the first one, that's the first step that says you have to grow. The first one says that growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow will get better. But your environment is not structured in a way that it supports growth. Then we stop talking about growth. Does it come out clearly? Do you get it? So ask yourself, this is end of April. Which events have you attended? Ni za sherehe peke yake? Which events have you attended? At least you can say this one. So you're here, right? Has it helped? Do you feel like you have grown? Yeah? Okay. Which places have you gone to? Where have you gone to? These are hard answers, not for shouting, right? Who have you hung out with consistently since January? If you were to break down the time you spend with people, who are those people? Are they any different from the people you hung out with last year, January to April? Are they different? And are they different from the ones you hung out with the other year, January to April? They don't have to be different, as long as they are all on a growth path, a growth journey. You understand? So choose very well. If you have the same crew or crowd, January to April this year, and that crowd is the same one you had January to April last year, and you sit around and look around and realize, no, none of us grew, or these people did not grow me, then you need to move. You need to get other people in your crowd, in your circle. Because as long as you want to grow, you have to be intentional about it. So those are the people. We talked about the events, the places we have been. Let's talk about the books. What books have you read January to April 27th? Maybe by a show of hands, how many have read 5 books this year? Oh, wow. We have hands up. Well done. How many have read more than 5? Why did I start with 5? Maybe there are others. More than 5, we have 1, 2. Amazing. Okay? How many have read at least 1 book a month? This is month 4. Okay, a few hands, but more than, yeah? Here is the thing. If you do not read, you're not growing. It's as simple as that. Yeah? People come to me and tell me, Dolly, please mentor me. Then we start having conversations. In fact, now, what I did, and if you watch the CIS, you'll see, what I tell them is, I need you, I give you an assignment. You go do the assignment, you finish it, and I know that you're ready for mentoring. You come and ask for mentorship, and I give you 1 or 2 things to go and do, and you don't finish it, then you're not ready, and I cannot commit the time. Right? One of the things that you want to do to be a good enough, deep enough mentee is to start reading. Start reading. Because I tell you, the mentees I have had, they come to me and tell me things like, you know, I read this book that said. Now, that mentoring relationship, it switches. I become the mentee, they become my mentor. I go like, what? What did that book say? And then the next time I'm looking forward to receiving this person and working with this person. You understand? So if you're going to even try and get somebody who you want to network with, what's your value to them? Remember, I think it's Pius, the 5 or 7 P's. I think I wrote 7 P's, although he's talked about 5. Mine came to 7. Did anyone get more than 5? You got 6. I got 7. But anyway, one of those P's, I think it was the first one. What is your unique value proposition, right? And then how do you package yourself? Do you remember that one? But how do you get value proposition for yourself and packaging for yourself if your environment is messed up? Do you see the connection? So what's the environment you are existing in, and how will you change it? That is what you need to do. I have been working now for, I think, about 26 years, maybe more, right? And I've been growing at least every 2 to 3 years. And that growth has come definitely because of the content I have been consuming, or books earlier, before all this content was online, the books I was reading, the people I was hanging out with. There were events when I was in my 20s. There were events that were being held in town. And somehow I remember that they always used to happen when it was raining. It used to rain so hard. You know, raining until the Mathris have tripled their bus fare to go home. So I would go for those events, actually, just because I needed to kill that time for the bus fare to come down. That is what made me go for those events. They were called Young Professionals Something. I was 23, 24, 25. And I would go there at KICC and hang out and listen to those people and go like, oh, wow, I didn't know about that. And then I look at the time, I go like, okay, now I think the M3 rates have gone down because it's been raining. Then I go home. Now, I wasn't so organized to say, I must attend events because someone told me environment and events. No, I was just trying to save my transport, my fare. But in that process, I met people at the event. I learned things at the event. Then they made me start talking differently, presenting myself differently. People looking at me and asking me, how did you know all that stuff? People till today ask me, but how do you know all these things? I don't know. I just read a lot. I just want to spend that time in that environment space, that law of environment. Yeah? If you take nothing out of what I've said today, just take this one out, this one out with you. Build an environment around you. Plug yourself into an environment that you chose and drew for yourself. You designed it for yourself. Design the environment. Say, I want to hang out with people who will ... It could be that I want to hang out with people who have built houses because my next big project is to build a house. That could be the environment you want to take yourself in, right? Or I want to hang out with people who have traveled to Europe because I want to travel to Europe. But you decide it for yourself. But you have to design it. So, who do you want to hang out with? Which books do you want to read? And you might not know the book title, but when you see the person you want to model or where you want to be, and you say, I want to be able in 5 years to, or in 3 years to do A, B, C, D, or next April, when we come for the Financial Literacy Month Summit, I want to be able to tell people that I did this. Then you're going to find the book. True or false? Yeah? Once you define it, the books, you just Google, the books will come. Right? People you want to meet. Who do you want to meet? Write it there. Design it on that piece of paper and say, I want to meet this person. And there's a way that, nature just works it out that you get, first of all, even LinkedIn. You go like, I want to meet Dolly. This is me on LinkedIn. And I go click her name and I see, oh, Fred knows Dolly. And I know Fred. So I tell Fred one day, let's have coffee. By the way, Fred, I need you to introduce me to Dolly. Right? But the only way you knew you wanted to meet Dolly is because, how did you end up locking in on Dolly? It's because you designed that growth that you wanted, right? So we're going to have deliberate designing of the environment that it is that we want to grow in. So we put in people, we put in resources, and then we plunge ourselves in and say, this is how I'm going to lead it. The last thing is, after all that is said and done, and even today, when you go back home, invest 30 minutes a day in reflection. They say reflection is the most powerful tool that is never used. And it's very easy to go through 20 years without reflecting. Imagine that. Ni kuamka tu na kwenda. Year 1, year 2, until 20 years are over. At what point do you look back and say, is it working? Should I stop? Should I move faster? Is this one better than yesterday's? Invest 30 minutes a day and reflect on your day. And if you reflect, write down your reflections. Yeah? Write them down. Preferably, old school. Take a notebook and a pen. Because there's something that happens in your brain when you're writing with a notebook and a pen. Right? You know what will happen? If you reflect on Monday, you'll be like, yeah, that's how my day went. Reflect on Tuesday. By Sunday, if the day is starting to look like the same, and then you ask yourself on Sunday, but if I continue this way, will I get to where I want to be? You look at that and say, I need to change this. This is not working for me. But how do you know that you stalled or you're on the wrong path if you don't reflect? So the last thing I want to tell you, even from the discussions that have happened here today, is that you need to take time to reflect. 30 minutes a day. By the way, it's not easy. I got an app on my phone. It's called Journal. If you want, you can look for it. It's journal, and it's a circle with some orange lines like that. That app is amazing. It prompts you like, hey, you haven't reflected today. Yeah? First of all, actually, what it does in the morning, it comes up and says, what do you desire to do today? And then, you see now, that already tells me to be intentional about my day. In the evening, or around, I think, 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, it comes beeping and asks me, what are you grateful for? And then in the evening, I think it asks me something like, what are you glad you did, or what have you done that you're happy about, or what could you have done differently? You understand that whole reflection journey? Yeah? So if you're an app person, there are apps for it. That's the one I use, but I prefer to write. Yeah? Just take at least 30 minutes a day and reflect. Now, there are some days where it's really just difficult. If you purpose to reflect 7 days a week, and you end up reflecting for 5 days a week, you're good. Right? How many of us are reflecting every day anyway? Every single day? Okay. Oh, we have some hands. Amazing. Right? So most of us haven't been reflecting daily. That means even if you start doing 3 to 5 days a week, you've already grown as a person. All right? Now, I will read this out to you in terms of laws, and then I will make an invitation to you to write to me. I will just say my email out loud. Write to me, and I'll be happy to take you through the laws that take us through growth. Right? The first one that I talked about was actually the law of intentionality. Be intentional. The second one was the law of awareness. Be aware. The third one was the law of the mirror. Look at yourself, and how you see yourself will determine how much you invest in yourself. If you see yourself, have you seen that meme that keeps going around where there's a cat in front of the mirror? Then the cat sees a lion. Have you seen that one? Have you ever seen it the other way around? You know, there's a cohort I was coaching through this. Have you ever seen a lion that sees itself as a cat? In those memes? Anyone? Yeah? It's always the cat that sees itself as a lion. That is the law of the mirror. If you see a lion, you're going to invest yourself to be the lion. To invest in yourself to be the lion. But if you're standing in front of a mirror, the lion that you are, because we all are these lions, but you see a cat, then there's a process you need to go through. Because you really are a lion, you could be a bigger one, right? So that's the law of the mirror. When I talked about curiosity, that's the law of curiosity. When I talk about modeling, that's the law of modeling. You model the person you want to be. Consistency is the law of consistency that says, unless you keep doing it, and unless you keep at it, it will not come to you. Then the law of environment. Create the environment that encourages growth, that actually can only result to growth and nothing else. So I want to invite you, if you text me, not text me, if you write to me an email, I will invite you to sessions that I usually have at least once a quarter that takes young people under the age of 35 actually through these laws. My email is dollysagwe@gmail.com. Please write on the subject, Financial Literacy Month, investing in myself, so that I know that you are from here. I will stop there and ask any reflections you have, any questions you have, any comments, or anything you are doing that has invested in you, that you have invested in yourself, that you want to share with anyone in the room. This is your time to reflect back. Anyone?
Okay, there, on the middle.
Somewhere here?
On the center row, yes.
So hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Esther. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So I recently began reading a book that says me 5 years from now.
Wow.
And it broke down the sections into work, relationships, family, career. And what I'm doing that has changed my perception of myself, even in my workplace, I'm viewing myself as a business, not necessarily as an employee. Such that even when I attend interviews, I'm presenting the skill set, the value I'm bringing, and even when I get a no or a rejection, I identify it as this particular employer does not need the skills that I have.
Yeah.
So I'll continue looking until where I get a yes, that's now where my skills and my value is needed. Because I believe the way everyone has their purpose and their light, you're not meant for every space. So it is also important for us to identify the spaces that God has called us into, and that has also made various people who I'm interacting with to identify the light in me. And that is also something I'm asking God, help me see what they are seeing, so that I keep on elevating myself. And as I wind up, I'd also seek an opportunity to be one of your mentees. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing share. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dolly, for that. So my name is Mursi. So maybe just a reflection from even the 9 points.
Yeah.
So what I would say is that maybe the aspect of actually of being intentional. For me, when I turned 18, several years ago, I also became intentional. I was able to write down, for example, I need to finish my undergrad by 22, to finish my master's by 25, to finish my PhD by 30, and also, for example, now get married after finishing my PhD. So I was able to achieve all of them.
Well done.
Yeah, so even though the aspect of, for example, for married and PhD, at least, I think it got delayed by 2 years. But now even when I reflect back, but it's just the things I used to, I still even have that black book. There's the things I used to write when I finished my undergrad, because I finished my undergrad when I was actually looking after the cows, etc. So the aspect of intentionality, even for young people, even what I even try to even tell young people, I teach presently at USIU, but even what I normally tell even to my students, just as you have said, in the next 5 years, where do I want to be? If, for example, I want to one day either go to academia or, for example, finish my PhD, what am I doing right now? When I was finishing my undergrad, after you finish my undergrad, you'll find various people get opportunities. I have colleagues who got opportunities, for example, to go work, for example, in Kakamega, in Kisumu, etc. Yes, that was fine. I did not get that opportunity. I had to wait home for around 1 year. But when I look back, I do not regret. God, staying within Nairobi actually opened me to opportunities as opposed to those guys who went, for example, outside Nairobi. Some of them are still outside Nairobi, but when we now look back, at least I am glad I made that decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Let me ask this question so that I get a sense of who's in the room, to make it very relevant. How many of us here are under the age of 23? Okay, quite a few number of hands. How many are between 23 and 30? Wow. Okay, 30 to 35. And then the ones who we have over 35 are our guests, right? Okay, so we have 23 to about 35, much more than 18 to 23. And the reason I ask that is, by the way, just because the cutoff for this movement and even the government cutoff is 35, doesn't mean that if you are closer to 35, or 35 is old, and I want to tell you that you can start anytime to start being deliberate about your life. 2-3 days ago, a lady who I had attended a program with in the US before COVID sent me an article because she knew we were running this financial literacy campaign. This article was written about financial literacy and women, specifically about women, because there's another whole story there. That article said, if you are under the age of 30, I think they said around 28, 29, but let me call it 30. That means it could go up until 35, because you know statistics, right? You're likely to live until you're 100. Amen? Does that excite you or scare you? It's scary. If you're in this room, you're likely to live until you're 100 years old. So if you haven't started reading the books, you can start now. It's like we are all in kindergarten, starting all over again. You understand? If you never were deliberate about the events you attend, start now. If you have never started saving and investing, start now. Kwa sababu, it is a long journey. You understand? So don't feel any pressure of, I should have done this 3 years ago. You should not have that pressure at all. Right? Yeah. Because I see the teenagers are coming in.
Yeah, there's one question here. On this side. She's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Juanita. So I just had one question, or sort of a word of advice. You did mention that a good place to start is be aware, and also be aware of situations so that you know, yes, I've done this thing, but maybe it might not lead me to the right path, so maybe it's time to drop it. So especially in this generation of wanting things and results instantly, where's the balance between, maybe I need to wait this out a little longer so that I can reap the rewards, versus this is not going to work out, so maybe I should think about moving forward?
What I usually advise people to do is to have a 5-year plan, then you work it into annual plans, then half-year plans, quarterly plans, and then monthly plans. Now, if you have a 5-year outlook, yeah, you will realize that your patience levels to test it, what it is you want to test, are higher. But if you have a 6-month outlook, you're going to say this is not working and move. You understand? Nothing it's not a switch. I don't know anything that has come to people from switching it on and off. It doesn't work like that. Get your 5-year plan and then work backwards. Then work backwards and say, if this is where I want to be in 5 years, this is what I will do every year until year 5 to get it. Does it make sense? Yeah. That way, you'll stop being very anxious about, I tried it last week, from January I've tried this thing, it's not working. Now, that is not to say that you should not pick signals of things that are going off. You know, for example, if you want to start rearing chicken and you want to start supplying 300 chickens per month by December, it is not to say that if you see the chicken are dying, you say, no, Dolly said we wait it out for 5 years. That's not what I'm saying, right? You have to keep course correcting. Within the 5-year period, you course correct. You course correct. As in, if this is a path to get there, you might sway left and right, but the path generally is the same, and it will take you there, right? Get the right mentors. Get into the right conversations and read the right books or content. And then make that judgment of, should I drop this thing now? But patience, really patience. And I know the patience levels, my mom was here earlier. Her patience level is higher than mine. And I guarantee you, if you're here at 35, my patience levels are higher than yours. And it is only going to get challenging going downwards. But be patient, but stick on track and get yourself in the right environment. Yeah.
Okay, we have, can you take in more questions?
Maybe just one more, and then I'll give a quick formula. I mean, you might have had it online on how to confirm that you're growing. Because some people say, yeah, Dolly, we do this every year, January. We have January, what is it called? New Year goals and all that stuff. But then it goes off. I'll give you a formula. Just one more question. I don't know where it is. Yeah.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yes, hi, everyone. I have a question. So it's very difficult to create a plan And sometimes what I find is the farther and farther away you move from the 18, 25, now moving up there, it becomes harder to see what you should be next, and it also becomes harder to meet the plan on paper versus reality. So what advice do you have for that?
Super. And I can take that as the last question, if we are pressed for time, right?
We can take, depends.
Okay, right. So let me maybe take another one, and then we'll respond and wrap up.
Okay.
There's a question there.
Hi, do you want to answer hers first, then I
Sure.
ask?
All right. So we get off track. So first of all, let me confirm this. From class 1, and allow me to use, at least here, if you are here and you're 18 and above, if you went to the government system, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Even if you didn't, and you're here, you'll understand anyway. So allow me to use 844, right? From class 1 to class 8, the measures of growth were determined by a government-set curriculum that says you need to pass class 1 in this way to go to class 2, class 3, and then, in there you could falter a bit, but the teachers would be like, just work hard, then you get to class 8, and you have to do your exam. And there now, it was msema kweli. Do you really qualify to go to Form 1? You know that? That growth journey and checks and balances were determined by a preset government curriculum system. Right? Then you survive it. You go to Form 1. Same thing from Form 1 to Form 4. And at Form 4, there's another gate that I need to unlock and open, or a door I need to unlock. Again, who set it? Did you set it for yourself? It was set by the government. You pass Form 4. Then you say, let's assume you've gone to university. Let's do the whole 8-4-4. You pass it, and now you're going to university. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. The normal ones. You could go to year 6, depending on whether you're doing medicine and stuff. And then you say, each time you're passing each milestone, pat on the back, clap, clap, clap. Your relatives have a big bash, and you put on a gown, and there's pomp and laughter. Then after university, you're released to the world. There's no government giving you milestones. You understand? We go through 16 years of somebody else giving us milestones for our lives. And then we get, your question is very true. Assume you finish university at 22. 22 and up to 30 or even 35 can become such a big blur. You don't even know whether you're coming or going. Have you experienced that? I can hear those ones of, yes. Yeah? So I just want to tell you, the milestones that you were clapping for yourself and people were clapping for you and patting your back were set by some system for you. Now, I want you to take control of that and set them for yourself. Yeah? Give it 3 years, just 3 years. 5 years is long, by the way. Give it 3 years and say, in the next 3 years, A, B, C, D. In the next 3 years, A, B, C, D. And I want to give you a formula. Because I've met very many people who are struggling with this. Actually, not just young people. Yeah? And for women, especially after you get babies, there's another whole blur season of your life. You don't even know whether you're coming or going. And then you wake up on the other side of it and look back and realize 7 years have passed. Because you've been raising children. So let me give you a formula that I found. And I started using it, I think, 3-4 years ago. And if you watched the CISs and the roundtable, I think, and if you came for the webinar, you'll have had it. So let me just say it again. It is the 1-4-6 formula. How many have heard of it? Yeah, 2-3 people. That's good. The 1-4-6. Let's just adopt it. The 1. What's the one big thing you want to mark the year with? This is 2024. What's the one big thing you want to mark your 2024 with? The one thing. If you ask me and Candy the question, I think my one big thing is this summit. that is the year we started the inaugural Financial Literacy Awareness National Campaign. That is our one big thing. But you know what? Later in the year, we could get another one big thing. But until now, where I can tell you, this is the biggest. Right? What's your one thing going to be? Or maybe it has already happened. And it could be anything. It could be that's the year I climbed up Mount Kilimanjaro. Kwa sababu hiyo mountain, you don't just decide tomorrow, I'm going next week. So you'll have worked for it. That means you're taking yourself through some test and grit and consistency and discipline until you get to the peak, right? What's your one thing for the year? Now, if you look back and ask yourself, what was your one thing for last year? Without even saying what it is, please raise your hand if you know, you definitely know your one thing for last year. Okay? Some hands are up, maybe a third of the room, the hands are up. It is very easy for you to go through 13 years and you don't know what the one thing is, right? So that's the one thing. The next number is 4, right? What are the 4 things you're going to learn in the year? So you're going to learn something once every quarter. And that something once every quarter that you're learning is the investment you're making in yourself because you already decided in 3 or 5 years, that's the person I'm modeling today. That's what I see in the mirror. Because of that, I'm going to learn these things. So every quarter, learn the one thing. So you have 4 things you have learned in the year. Make sense? Right. And then the last one is 6. And the 6th one is 6 mini adventures. That means 1 adventure every 2 months. You could spread it out that way. But it could be that they've come so close, but anyway, minimum 6. Now, this adventure doesn't have to be, like this could be an adventure, right? I told some cohort that I was training some time back that they needed to go to, that is when Thika Superhighway was being built. I told them, let's get you a mini adventure. Let's go and see how the superhighway is being built. We just stand somewhere safe and watch those people. Even that alone is a growth, is going to give you growth, right? So the 6 things that are going to be your mini adventure for the year. And that way, the one who asked that question, if you go through 1, 4, 6, every year, from the age of 23 to 33, will you have grown? Yeah? So just use that simple formula if you have no other formula, and then look back. Now, if you don't manage 6, you might close the year with 4. It is well. If you don't manage 4, you might close the year with 2 or 3. It is well. But always look for the 1. Right? That way, you know, the government, going back to your government, the government system, everybody knows that's the year I did class 8. Who knows that year? That's the year I did my class 8. It was the one thing for the year. That's the year I did my form 4, right? So now we're going to set that pace for ourselves. Okay, there was one last question there.
Hi, Dolly. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
First of all, a big thank you for putting this together.
Thank you.
Prosper Path just started the other day, but the traction you guys have is amazing and speaks to the need that you guys are solving.
Thank you.
First, I have a couple of reflections and then a question afterwards. I think the first one is just an observation as I'm getting older, is that the world is a lot less forgiving for our mistakes as young people the older we get. So as much as, you know, yeah, YOLO, you only live once, etc. I'm starting to learn also just by observing some of my peers. I just turned 25, and there's some things that were okay when we were 18 and 19. But, you know, at 25, there's certain mistakes that it's just a lot harder for you to bounce back from. So, you know, it would be folly for us to keep going on saying, yeah, you know, we might live to 100, but yeah, we can still keep doing certain things. So that's one quick lesson I've been learning. The second, and one thing that's really been helping me lately, is finding mentors. So I have Quite a handful of them, but I'd say 3 that are really close to me. And one of the things that mentors really fast-tracked for me was, number 1, career. So even like my first actual job, that was from a mentor, and it just came from a conversation, right? Long, funny story. An ex of mine, her uncle, she was like, oh yeah, you're into this industry, and he's really senior in a company that's leading in that area. Yeah. Let me connect you. And it started with phone calls, and then he offered me a summer internship, and we've been friends since. And as an entrepreneur also, as someone who runs, who's in business, finding people who are like way further ahead and who I admire and who can actually groom me, I've been finding that that's a life hack, and it cuts many years off of your life. But an important thing that a lot of us look down on is that thing of, you only have these opportunities because you know someone. I mean, the truth of life I'm coming to learn is that lots of people are very successful because they knew the right people. And so having like sponsors, right? Someone who can say your name in a room and say, you know what, that guy can solve your problem. But also another life hack is that personally, one of my income streams is literally just doing work for my mentors, right? So they need some research done, they come and they call me. They need stuff like slide decks, proposals, etc. These things that come naturally to us who are more digitally inclined, that's also something. Now, a question, it's a dilemma that I'm currently having, and it's in balancing some of the big dreams and some of those projects that you're like, this is going to take the next 5-10 years to actually build out, right? And that the payoff is going to be great and you're going to make a lot of change. But there's also bills to be paid. There's, a life to finance and, the day-to-day meeting of ends thing. So sometimes I find myself challenged as to how to prioritize my time between, day-to-day job stuff that takes care of my rent and all of that versus like the big picture projects where, I'm probably only gonna get payoff in the next 5 or 10 years or something.
Thank you. That is KJ. Thank you, KJ. And you want to check out his work online? Let me first start by promoting you. That's the Boardroom Banter, right? Yes. Amazing. Podcast, please go and look at it. How do you balance going for that big dream while there are bills to be paid today? That's it, right? You have to make time or you have to get away to pay the bills today. Yeah, it's inevitable. Those bills have to be paid. Unless you do have a grant, a sponsor, and this is the right English sponsor word, not what it has been corrupted to be, right? Yeah? Somebody who's who's actually sees your dream and vision and is willing to pick up those, because there are those people who you pitch this thing to and they say, I need you to focus on this. What do you need? I need my rent paid. I need money for credit and stuff like that. And they give you that every month. There is that opportunity as well. So you can either unlock the funding that you need to run your current life by sharing your dream with someone who's going to actually unlock that stress for you. Or you just actually figure out how to make that money in a way that doesn't consume most of your time, but still manages to pay your bills. Unfortunately, you cannot hand over the bills to somebody else unless they're supporting your dream. Yeah?
Thank you.
All right. So we will stop there. I realize the teenagers are at home.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a parting shot. The only guarantee that tomorrow will get better is that you remember that? The only guarantee that your tomorrow will get better is that we grow. Yeah? Growth is the only guarantee that your tomorrow is going to get better. Thank you so much.
All right, Dolly. Round of applause to Dolly.